Residential property taxes are set to go up 30% or more across Colorado this year. Just a few years ago, we had a constitutional protection that would have prevented this, but the legislature scrapped it. Since putting this impending property tax increase in motion, those legislators have enacted a patchwork of temporary policies designed to make you believe that they're lowering your property taxes. In truth, these policies do next to nothing to help homeowners or renters. But there is some good news. 2023 tax bills aren't due until early next year. That means if we act now, we can still dodge this tax crisis. To prevent the impending surge in property taxes, either the legislature through legislation or citizens through a citizen ballot initiative will have to promulgate a policy change soon. The legislature has several bills this year to address the issue, and some citizen ballot initiatives have been filed as well. Keep watching this video and you'll find out what each of those do and whether they're likely to help. Now, if you don't know how we got in this mess to begin with, all the policies and politics that led up to it, I recommend you go back and watch this video series from the beginning. It's not very long, I promise, and the link to it is in the description. If you don't know how property taxes work, I'll also include a link to just an explainer video of how property taxes work in Colorado. The bill introduced in the legislature this year that would have done the most to help Colorado homeowners and renters was killed in committee along party lines, with every Republican voting in favor and all but one Democrat voting against. Kudos, by the way, to Representative Bob Marshall, the only Democrat who stood with Colorado homeowners. House Bill 23-1054 would have paused property valuations at 2022 levels. This isn't really a permanent solution, but it would have kept property taxes stable for now. And under the circumstances, the proposal made a lot of sense. Frizzell's bill essentially asked, since the party in power hasn't come up with a permanent solution, and we need their sign-off to get anything done, can we at least put this massive property tax increase on pause while we find a solution? The Democratic majority said, nope. That brings us to the next solution offered by legislators this session, Senate Bill 23-108. The bill says local governments can issue the taxpayer refunds required under the Taxpayers' Bill of Rights through a temporary property tax cut. Now that bill sounds like a great idea, but it doesn't relieve the burden Coloradans face with these rising property taxes. There are three things to know about this bill. First, local officials came to legislators and asked them to introduce the bill to provide legal cover for something local officials were already doing and have been doing for decades. But it's not necessary because Colorado's Constitution already explicitly allows local officials to issue taxpayer refunds in this way. Second, this doesn't reduce the overall tax burden. Just like Senate Bill 22-293, which I talked about in the last video, this bill just says government can take money from your taxpayer refund and use that money to issue temporary property tax cuts for property owners. It's not a net tax relief. Now, third, this bill only applies to 11 of 64 counties. What this bill does is it provides cover and protection for politicians, allowing them to say that they're doing something when in fact they're not doing anything that'll help. There's one bill that's been drafted but not yet introduced. The bill, sponsored by Representative Rose Puglisi and Senator Byron Pelton, would create a property tax task force to, quote, develop a permanent and sustainable tax structure for the state of Colorado. Considering that the legislature hasn't come up with a permanent solution, this certainly isn't a bad idea, but it also wouldn't do anything to prevent the immediate calamity that Colorado homeowners and renters face this year. And it also kind of misses the bigger picture. You see, certain politicians, the ones who hold the reins of power here in Colorado, they're causing your property taxes to skyrocket intentionally because they want to keep more of your money. They saw it as a huge political victory when they convinced the people of Colorado to allow a property tax increase by repealing the Gallagher Amendment to the state constitution. They don't want a permanent solution that would help you because it would mean giving up some or all of the new tax revenue they're taking from you. So let's turn to the citizen-led measures designed to address the issue. The first group of citizen initiatives, numbers 35 through 38, are essentially variations on the same thing. They would do two things primarily. First, they would limit the growth in homeowners' property taxes to inflation or 3% per year, whichever is greater. This by itself is good policy, and it would do a lot to help homeowners. Unfortunately, the measure comes with another massive tax increase attached. In addition to limiting the growth in property taxes, the measure would forever end the taxpayer refunds under the Taxpayers' Bill of Rights. If you remember those $750 checks you got in the mail last year, you would never see one of those again if some variation of this proposal passed. In fact, the proposal is suggesting taking 3 times as much money from taxpayers as taxpayers would save from the property tax cut. Let me be clear. If one of these measures makes the ballot, it's effectively asking voters, do you want to give up $3 for $1 in exchange? Would you take that deal? I know I wouldn't. The other proposed citizen initiative, Initiative 21, is similar to the first one we talked about, but without the huge tax increase. It also would limit the growth in homeowners' property taxes to 3% a year. And it does come with a small tax increase. It says that to backfill education funding to local governments, the state can keep $100 million per year from our taxpayer refunds. So that's a $700 million property tax cut in exchange for giving up $100 million in our refunds. I'd say that's a pretty good deal for taxpayers. Now, the problem with both of these citizen measures is that they don't take effect until 2024, after the huge increase in property taxes for 2023 has already happened. That's why it's important that our legislators do their job and address this issue this session. To sum it all up, the Democratic majority in the legislature killed the bill that would have done the most to help Coloradans right now. There are 2 other bills pending in the legislature that would neither help nor hurt. There's a citizen ballot measure that's a massive tax increase disguised as tax relief. Then there's Initiative 21, which would help over the long term, but it doesn't prevent the large increase in property taxes we're going to see in 2023. So to put it simply, none of these measures are the solutions Colorado homeowners and renters need most right now. In the next video, I'll go over what I think needs to be done. If you want to get notified when the next video comes out, hit the subscribe button below. And remember this, if knowledge is power, then ignorance is servitude. So let YouTube know you like this content and want to see more by hitting the like button. That way I can bring you and other Coloradans more knowledge like this.